Today's video is sponsored by Babbel. And okay, let me just tell you why I actually signed up for Babbel in the first place, right? Now for me, it was all about connection. Because whenever my family and I travel, I just hate that moment when I'm trying to order something at a restaurant or I'm out sightseeing and I'm trying to ask a simple question and I'm just stuck. I don't know how to speak the language. I don't know what to say. It can be so embarrassing, right? But Babbel is an award-winning app that makes learning a new language not only simple, but effective. With Babbel, you can learn languages like Spanish, French, German, Italian, and so many more, which personally, I've been practicing my Spanish. So now whenever I'm going around and need to speak the language, instead of just getting blank stares, I can actually say the phrases or the words or ask the questions that I want to ask. Like, ¿Dónde está el baño? Or ¿Me trae la cuenta, por favor? Which I think that means, can I have the check? But I'm still practicing, guys. But what I love most is that Babbel was created by over 200 language experts. So it kind of feels like having a private tutor in your pocket. Plus, the real-time feedback and the progress trackers, for me, it keeps me motivated, which I definitely need, especially when I'm trying to learn a new language. And here's a wild statistic. Babbel has over 25 million subscriptions sold, and 92% of those users have improved their proficiency level in just 2 months. So to start speaking a new language in 3 weeks, click the link in the description or go to babbel.com/10tolife and you will get up to 55% off your subscription. That is up to 55% off your subscription when you use my link. So join the millions of Babbel learners breaking the language barrier every single day and go to babbel.com/10tolife. Being a teenager is complicated, and even though it's something we all go through, no teenage experiences are exactly the same. For some, it's rebellion, for others, it's heartbreak, but most of the time, those growing pains don't end in violence. And that's what makes today's case so disturbing, because 15-year-old Seath Jackson was just a regular kid. He had been through a tough breakup, he lost a close friend, he started posting, a few tough guy selfies trying to look cool. Pretty standard stuff for a high schooler. But somehow, that everyday teenage drama, it snowballed into something absolutely barbaric. This wasn't just a crime of passion. It was a premeditated ambush, one carried out by a group of teenagers who, instead of stopping things when they got out of hand, escalated them to an unthinkable level. We're talking beatings, torture, gunshots, and remains that were burned and stuffed into paint cans. This is what happens when a good kid, sweet, funny, and just trying to navigate life, gets tangled up with someone truly dangerous. And it all unfolded in a quiet town in Florida where no one could have imagined what these teenagers were planning behind closed doors. Hey guys, my name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life. Thank you so much for tuning into today's case and being here with me today. I want you to get ready, because today we're diving into one of the most shocking and senseless murders that we have ever covered. In 2011, Seath Jackson was a 15-year-old boy living in Summerfield, Florida. And Summerfield is the kind of place that locals describe as quiet, laid back, just a small community where people know their neighbors, where they spend a ton of time outdoors. And with its lakes, its parks, and its trails, it's the kind of town where you're just as likely to see somebody fishing as you are to see somebody riding a four-wheeler or hiking through the woods. And Seath fit right in. He loved being outside. Whether it was skateboarding, riding BMX bikes, fishing, he did it all. And growing up, Seath was described as being a very upbeat and spunky kid. He was always cracking jokes and always finding ways to make the people around him laugh. Now on the outside, especially during his teenage years, Seath presented himself as this rebel, punk kind of kid. He had long, brown, shaggy hair that hung down his face. He wore big, baggy t-shirts and snapback hats. And his style was very much early 2000s, like Affliction type of clothes, if you know what I mean. And if you know, you know. But underneath that cool, almost wannabe gangster persona was just this really sweet kid. The pictures that he took throwing up gang signs or the selfies with this mean-looking face to look cool and intimidating, they were all pretty much just a ruse. On the inside, he cared a lot about the people in his life, and He was kind of like a ride or die kind of person for the people he loved. And that became really clear when he got into his first relationship. It was 2010, and Seath was just 14 years old, which that's when he started dating a girl named Amber Wright, who was also 14. It's unclear how exactly they met, but once she came into his life, it was like nothing else mattered. Amber was all that he could think about. He wanted to spend every waking minute with her, and like a lot of high school relationships, things with them started very fast, and were kind of a whirlwind of just really intense emotions. Now, in the beginning, Seath's mom, Sonia Jackson, was very happy he had a girlfriend. Just mentioning her name brought this huge smile to his face. So even though they were young, and let's be honest, the relationship wasn't destined to last, Seath was happy. So his mom, Sonia, described it as typical puppy love at first, just happy, enamored with each other, over the moon. But things changed very quickly, and what started as sweet and innocent, it turned almost toxic overnight. Every little disagreement spiraled into these huge fights, and those fights didn't just stay between Seath and Amber, they started pulling other people into it. And before long, the drama was playing out in front of everyone. It was all over social media. They would bash each other on Facebook back and forth, saying the absolute worst things about each other. And to the people who saw it, it always seemed like they were just done with each other. Like this would be the final time they broke up. They would stay broken up for good. They wouldn't get back together. But then the following day, they would be right back together, just posting about how sorry they were, how much they loved each other. And it was just this cycle that would continue. So as you can imagine, over time, Seath's family came to not really like Amber. And I'm sure the feelings in her family were mutual. They clearly were just not a healthy pairing. And like I said, that was in 2010 when they first met, which I saw some sources that said that their relationship lasted a little over a year. Then I saw some that said it was a little over 3 months. That was it. But either way, in March of 2011, it finally ended for good, and Seath was crushed. Now keep in mind, he was only 15, barely even a high schooler at this point. He still had plenty of life ahead of him and plenty more people that he would meet in his life. But that didn't matter to him. He felt like his world was crumbling and that his life was over, which if you ever were in love in high school, you know how it is, right? And to pour salt in the wound, it really hadn't been an easy breakup because Amber had cheated on him. Amber was also only 15 at the time, but now she had gotten herself this new 18-year-old boyfriend, older guy, more mature guy, more, everything. And his name was Michael Bargo. But instead of just moving on, Seath decided he was not going to accept what had happened. He wanted to convince Amber that he was the one for her and that this Michael guy was nothing in comparison to him or nothing in comparison to what they shared. And you would think that convincing her of that wouldn't be too hard because Michael wasn't exactly a winner on all fronts. A lot of people felt like Amber liked the rush of being with him because it was somebody who was more of a bad boy, this older guy. And I say that because Michael had gotten into a lot of trouble during his high school years. He was constantly getting in fights, all the way to the point of being removed from public school and being put into alternative school. Then eventually he was put into a juvenile detention facility. And by the time he was 18 years old, he was on probation, he was in a substance abuse program, he was also actively attending mandatory Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. A lot for an 18-year-old kid, right? Now, after Amber and Michael got together, Amber was still responding to Seath. She wasn't just shutting him down, and she could have blocked him, she could have even stopped responding, but she didn't. And maybe she liked the attention of two guys fighting over her, I don't really know. But as if things weren't already crappy enough for Seath, he also had a whole other issue that he had to worry about that stemmed from his breakup with Amber. See, Amber had a half-brother whose name was Kyle Hopper, and Kyle and Seath had been pretty close friends. Some would even say they were best friends. But when Amber broke up with Seath, Kyle felt like he had to choose a side. And we know there's that unsaid bro code, right? Or girl code. You never date your friend's sibling, you never hook up with them in case things go south. And that's what happened here. So even though Kyle had always liked Seath and thought that he was a fun guy to be around, he wanted to stay loyal to his family. So he picked Amber's side. Totally understandable. Now, after they stopped being friends, they did try to stay cordial because Kyle didn't have a personal problem with Seath. I mean, he was only not friends with him because he was trying to be loyal to his half-sister Amber. That is until Seath crossed a line with him. because apparently prior to their friendship ending, Kyle had made it very clear to Seath that he was crushing on one very specific girl at school. Meanwhile, Seath was still stuck on Amber, trying to win her back. However, he was also trying to get over her. And I'm sure you've heard the not so great expression of to get over somebody, you have to get under somebody new. And that's exactly what Seath was doing. And the person that he was hooking up with just so happened to be the girl that Kyle was crushing on. And to make matters even worse, Kyle didn't just hear about the two of them hooking up like it was some rumor that he could brush off. He apparently saw them together in bed with his own eyes. Kyle was going over to this girl's house, and when he got there, he saw her and Seath in bed together through the bedroom window. So that incident was the final nail in the coffin for Kyle. There was definitely no making up after that. So now here Seath was going through a lot. He was healing from a breakup. He was dealing with the loss of a friend, which arguably kind of was his own fault. He could have probably hooked up with a million other people. And he was also kind of caught up in this nasty love triangle with Amber, her new boyfriend Michael, also kind of with Kyle, his crush, double triangles, right? But as messy as things felt in that moment, he had no idea just how much darker it was about to get. Now, between Seath and Michael, there was obviously this certain level of jealousy, anger, resentment even. Seath didn't like Michael because he was with Amber, and he got in the way of them getting back together. Meanwhile, Michael didn't like Seath because he was Amber's ex. But it wasn't just that. Amber talked a lot about what Seath was like during their relationship too. I mean, we know that Amber and Seath and their relationship was very toxic. That's for sure. The Facebook fights, the constant breaking up, the getting back together, all of that. But Amber also claimed that during their relationship, Seath had sexually assaulted her. Now, it's hard to say what was or wasn't true in this. There was no proof that Seath ever did this, and that's something that we may never fully know in this case. And whether Michael was the best guy or not, in this moment, he believed his new girlfriend. So it also makes sense why he hated Seath so much, because these allegations just added a whole other layer to things. And it led to a lot of fights and arguments between Michael and Seath. But these arguments weren't just on social media or over text. They were in person, and they were also quickly becoming a very common thing. On one occasion, both Seath and Michael showed up at Amber's house, and they got into it, arguing face to face, shouting threats, back and forth. And we don't know exactly what sparked it or how it unfolded, but what we do know is that it got loud, and it got ugly. Then, just a week or two later, things escalated again, this time at Seath's house. It's not clear how Michael ended up there, but this confrontation was even more intense than the first. The two of them were screaming, they were insulting each other, they were just going at each other hard, back and forth. Eventually, Seath's mom, Sonia, stepped in and broke it up, kind of got in between the two of them. But then, as Michael was leaving, he didn't go quietly. He kind of turned back around and he threw one last threat out at Seath. He said, "I got a bullet, and it's got your name on it." Meanwhile, Sonia, his mom, was still standing right there. She heard every word. Nobody really thought something would actually happen to Seath. They thought it was just a threat. He was a tough guy. He was acting tough. And most people figured it was just teenage drama that would eventually blow over. I mean, sure, Michael had literally threatened to kill him, but did anybody really take it that seriously? It seemed more like tough talk than a real threat. And from Sonia's perspective, it was just another intense chapter in her son's very messy breakup. She figured that eventually Seath would move on, all of this would finally die down, and they could put it all behind them. And to be fair, that is usually how teenage drama goes. It burns hot, fades out fast, and it's over. But this time, it didn't fade. Instead, it turned deadly. April 18th, 2011 was a day that Seath's family and friends will never forget. It was a Monday, and the night before, Seath left the house to go hang out with his good friend William Samalot. Nothing weird, nothing out of the ordinary, just going and hanging out. But when he didn't come home later that night, his family started to worry. Remember, Seath was only 15 years old, so even though his parents trusted him and he never had any sort of behavioral issues before, he still had a list of rules that he needed to follow, probably even a curfew, right? So when Seath didn't come home that night, his parents were understandably freaked out. So that Monday, Sonia decided she needed to take action and go to the police department. She needed to figure out what's going on with my son's disappearance. And here's the thing. Unlike a lot of cases that we cover, Seath's family reported him missing right away. Not because they feared something terrible had happened, but they had thought that he had run away. Now, usually it's the other way around. Most of the time, parents have to beg and plead for the officers to take their missing kid's case seriously, but not Seath's family. And that doesn't mean that Sonia wasn't worried. She was, but she also felt confident that Seath wasn't in danger. He was just overwhelmed by everything. So she told the police the last time that she had heard from him, and that was the night before, and she had heard from him via text message. Then, suddenly, he just stopped responding, which that was not like him at all. Now, what was even weirder was the fact that he never came home that night or even the next morning. That's what prompted her to call the police. The thing was, he wasn't just over at a friend's house doing whatever 15-year-old boys do to have fun. Because Sonia told the officers that Seath's last text to her was about him going over to Amber's house so that he could have some kind of conversation with her. Maybe closure, maybe sparking things up, she wasn't sure. But that was the last message indicating where he was going. So then, when he stopped responding to all of the messages and didn't come back, Sonia figured maybe something had gone wrong. Maybe he tried to get back together with Amber. She shut him down, told him, it's over for good. So that set him off emotionally, or threw him off emotionally, so much so that he would run away. So police started looking into his disappearance, getting background information, piecing together what was going on in his life, just really trying to get a clear picture of what was going on. Because whenever a teen runs away, it rarely is random. There's usually something that they're trying to escape. There's usually a catalyst of some sort. And in Seath's case, it looked like a perfect storm. The breakup with Amber, the falling out with his best friend Kyle, the constant tension with Michael, and then you add on top of that whatever had been said during that final conversation with Amber that night. It made sense. He was stressed out. He was a kid who just wanted to get away from it all for a little bit. Even to the investigators, they believed that. To them, it looked like a classic runaway case. And while they were still treating it seriously, nobody really expected anything more. They figured they'd talk to a few people, they would piece together what happened, and hopefully they would have Seath home by dinner time. But what neither Sonia nor the investigators realized was that Seath had not run away. He instead had walked directly into a trap. They began looking for where Seath could possibly be hiding, seeing if he had told any of his friends that he was skipping town, or if he was going over to another friend's house, that kind of thing. Usually runaways, especially people that age, don't get too far. They don't have money, they don't have connections, it's difficult. So Monday night came around, and the investigators hadn't found out much information that was very helpful. They were trying to find people that might have seen Seath the night before or knew where he could be, but they didn't have any solid leads or answers. On top of that, Seath still hadn't come home, which for a runaway, that wasn't necessarily super out of the ordinary. But also, like I said, runaways do usually give up pretty fast, especially young runaways. Nobody would have been surprised if Seath had just walked through his parents' door that night with a big, I'm sorry, given them a huge hug, sorry I made you worry. But he didn't. That's not what happened. Then, Tuesday morning, there was a huge break in Seath's case, and it wasn't what anybody was expecting. The break came from a single phone call that was made to investigators. On the other end of the line was a woman, and she was making a claim that was not only shocking, but almost impossible to believe. The woman calling in was Tracy Wright, and her two children were none other than Amber and Kyle. Remember, Kyle was Amber's half-brother. They shared the same mom. Now, law enforcement had already spoken to Tracy the day before when Seath was reported missing. They had ended up at her house when they were looking for Amber and Kyle to ask them a few questions, nothing too big. So now her calling in, that wasn't necessarily strange, but it was what she said that shocked them the most. Because she claimed that Kyle had come to her and that he confessed that he and his friends had brutally murdered 15-year-old Seath Jackson. Now, right away, I gotta give credit where credit is due, because not to drop names, but unlike certain people in true crime, like, Dirty Roberta Laundrie or Aiden Fucci's mom, they have all proven that parents would be very willing to help cover things up for their kids and not turn their kids in. Meanwhile, here was Tracy calling in and saying exactly what Kyle had told her. So it really is just common courtesy and human decency. But still, I'm very thankful that she didn't immediately go into, how can I cover this up, that kind of mode. So right away, the investigators were shocked by what she was saying. Like I said, they were giving Seath's case attention, but they definitely didn't think that they were dealing with a possible homicide here. So when they got this tip, they rushed over to Tracy's house, and that's where they learned the entire story of what had happened. And they also ended up making multiple arrests. Kyle and Amber were 2 of those arrests. And also arrested were 2 of their friends, a girl named Charlie, who was just 18 years old, and a 20-year-old named Justin Soto. Now you're probably wondering who those people are, how they're all connected. But as we get into what investigators uncovered, it will all start to make sense. So here's how Tracy ended up with this critical and literal life-changing information. The night before, only a few hours after Seath was reported missing, both Amber and Kyle had come home very emotional and just very distraught, crying, which Tracy really didn't think much of this at first. She knew that the investigators were treating Seath's case as a runaway. And yeah, that can be shocking, especially when you're young and you haven't experienced anything like somebody you know going missing, so she thought that that was what explained these emotions. To Tracy, it's not like Amber and Kyle were acting suspicious, but more so that they were shaken up by the disappearance. Then there was the added layer of the investigators wanting to talk with them. Tracy figured that maybe Amber thought that she would be in trouble for the way that things had gone down in their relationship, so maybe that's why she was crying and paranoid and freaked out. She didn't really put much weight into it. So that night, Amber, Kyle, and Charlie all spent the night at Tracy's house. But then the following morning, Tracy could tell that something was off. Again, she didn't immediately jump to any conclusions, but the vibe was definitely weird. Then, not too long after everyone had woken up, Kyle just came to her, basically sobbing, telling her he had to tell her everything. He had to tell her the truth of what happened. And that's when he explained that Seath was very much dead and that he had witnessed the entire thing. For weeks leading up to Seath's disappearance, we know that he was pretty much fighting with everyone. I mean, Kyle, Amber, Michael, you name it. We also know that both Michael and Kyle were really getting fed up with Seath. Michael because of the Amber situation, and Kyle because Seath had hooked up with the girl he liked. And Michael had already threatened Seath when he told him that there was a bullet with his name on it. And Kyle had also threatened Seath. Not to his face, though, but after he caught Seath in bed with his crush, he ended up texting Michael saying, I'm going to kill Seath. I'm going to kill him, like this asshole, super pissed off. Now, of course, maybe at the time, he hadn't really meant it. Maybe he was just blowing off steam. He was just angry. But eventually, it was like the only option to this whole friend group was that somehow they needed to get rid of Seath. So then Michael began concocting a plan to actually make that happen. It seemed like Michael really was the ringleader. He was the one to convince everybody that the best option would be to kill Seath. And he was also the one to come up with the game plan of how they were going to do it. And that's not to diminish anybody else's involvement, because as you'll see and hear, nobody tried to stop him. So first, Michael decided that the easiest and best way to kill Seath would be to shoot him. Just point blank shoot him and be done with it. He had recently come into ownership of a .22 caliber gun, and the best part about this gun for his plan was that he had gotten it as a payment for doing some sort of odd job for somebody else. So the gun wasn't registered in his name or anything like that. Arguably untraceable. Now, why he was getting paid in guns instead of cash, who the heck knows? But you know what they say, birds of a feather flock together. So maybe this was just a normal thing for 2 shady people to do. We know that he had surrounded himself at some point with very shady characters. So everybody in the friend group knew that the trickiest part about all of this was going to be getting Seath to a place that was secluded enough and wouldn't draw any attention, making sure that he was also alone when he came. Because usually when the boys would get together to fight, Seath would bring a friend, or vice versa. So they wanted him to show up alone in a secluded space where nobody would expect anything to happen. So the group quickly decided that Amber would be the one to lure Seath in, to trick him into meeting her somewhere. And conveniently for them, almost everyone was staying at Charlie's house. Michael, Kyle, Justin, they had all moved in. Amber was still technically living with her mom Tracy, but she spent most of her time at Charlie's house too with all of them. So the murder would have to be at Charlie's, and it was a standalone house that was a bit more secluded too, so it's not like any neighbors would be able to see or hear what was happening. The whole scene just seemed perfect for their plan. But the plan didn't stop there, because for a 5-person murder plot to run smoothly, everyone needed a role. a job. That way, they'd all be equally guilty and equally motivated to keep their secret buried. So it was decided that Amber would wait outside and lure Seath to the house, and that she would do this by offering him something that he couldn't resist, a chance of getting back together. Then, once Seath was walking up the road to Charlie's house, Amber would text Michael and Kyle to let them know to get in position, that it was go time. Amber would ask Seath to come inside so that they could talk, and then inside would be Michael and Kyle ready to jump him, making sure that he was on the ground and couldn't easily run outside of the house or get away. Then Justin's role was going to be to hit him with a piece of wood. Then once Seath was injured and down and couldn't fight back, everybody else would move out of the way, Michael would come in, and he would shoot him and kill him. Now, as for Charlie, I guess that her role in all of this was just letting them use her house as the murder scene. I don't know. But like I said, everybody had a part, a plan. And the plan, as twisted as it was, it seemed seamless. But according to what Kyle later told his mom Tracy, and eventually what he told the investigators, that plan unraveled almost immediately. From the very beginning, Seath seemed to have a gut feeling that something wasn't right here. Amber had texted him that night according to the plan, and here's how those messages going from 8:12 p.m. to 9:08 p.m. played out. And I'm going to use AI to read these messages because I really want you to hear the girl and the guy exchange of the conversation rather than me just telling you Amber, Seath, Amber, Seath. So take a listen.
Hey, can you talk?
You said you needed to talk.
Well, I kind of need to talk to you about us working things out.
What you mean?
Can you please call me, now?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, my friend Charlie is coming. I've been telling her everything between me and you, and she's coming because I need her to help through this. Is that okay? But don't tell anybody what's going on, because I want to make sure we can work things out before anyone knows.
Sure, Amber, if you have me jumped, I will never give you the time of day. So if I get jumped, say goodbye. All right?
Swear you're not Seath. I could never do that to you. I just want you and me back.
Okay.
I'm walking up the hill now. I am at the neighborhood road. Where are you?
Sorry, I didn't want Will to hear me. But stay around the corner where me and you fought. Just wait right there. I'll be there in a minute.
So the first part of the plan, aside from the fact that Seath already seemed a little suspicious, actually went pretty smoothly. But after that, everything went to complete shit, starting with the fact that Amber forgot to text that Seath was there. So everybody else just wasn't ready. They weren't in standby positioning, which you'd think that if you're planning a literal murder, that the bare minimum would be to get ready. But as you'll quickly realize, these were not criminal masterminds. They had no idea what they were doing. So when Amber and Seath came inside the house, Justin, who had the piece of wood and was supposed to hit him with it, just froze. He didn't do anything. He just stood there, which obviously by then Seath saw who was in the room, who was waiting for him, and he knew that it was a setup. He knew that he was being set up because Amber had told him that it was just going to be her and Charlie there. Nobody else was supposed to be home. So at this point, all the dots are starting to connect for him. Meanwhile, Michael and Kyle had decided at the very last minute that they were going to hide in the bedroom. Then they were going to come running out after Seath was inside of the house, after Justin hit him and got him on the floor. So at this point, Seath was just uninjured, standing in the living room, knowing Amber had been lying to him. Michael and Kyle also realized that things weren't going as planned, so they hurried out of the bedroom and tried to get the ball rolling before this plan just totally fell apart. They didn't want Seath to get away because maybe he would go to the cops, maybe he would just steer clear of them forever, they would never get this kind of opportunity again. They just knew that they needed to jump on this in the moment. So after running out of the bedroom, Kyle was able to get his hands on a different piece of wood, and he took it and he hit Seath over the head with it. Now, where all of this wood was coming from, I don't know. I'm going to assume there was probably a fireplace in the house or a fire pit out back. I have no idea. Who just has a bunch of wood laying around? Don't know. But I don't know how many times Kyle hit Seath. But I do know that it was enough that Seath was caught off guard and he was unable to fight back. It wasn't at all a fair fight, to say the least. But of course, that was kind of the whole point in all of this. So then, to finish this plan, Michael began shooting Seath. But here's the thing. Seath wasn't giving up that easily. It's not clear how many times Michael pulled the trigger or where he shot Seath, but somehow Seath was able to make a run for it still. And I honestly could not believe that when I first read it. I imagine that Seath's adrenaline must have been like sky high because he was able to run out of the house and he made it pretty far into the front yard. Sadly, though, things just got worse from there. Michael easily caught up to him, and when he did, he tackled him to the ground. And when he got him on the ground, he shot him one more time. Which I don't know the exact numbers of times that Seath had been shot at this point, but definitely more than once. Yet still, he was somehow miraculously alive and conscious. So Michael, Kyle, and Justin then picked him up and they dragged him inside from the front yard. There, they threw him inside one of the bathtubs that was inside the house. And this next part, I just want to warn you, it breaks my heart and it makes me sick. But Michael made it very clear to everyone that the gunshots had just been to slow Seath down, to make sure that he couldn't run away. It wasn't meant to kill him. So he instructed everybody else to leave him and Seath alone, leave them in the bathroom together, because now he wanted to make sure that Seath knew exactly who was killing him. It's sick and it's horrific. It's like somebody who wants to torture their prey, right? And you add in the fact that Seath was still conscious, it just makes it so disgusting and even worse. And as horrible as it sounds, it would have been easier if he had maybe passed out from blood loss, or if one of the gunshots had killed him quickly. Then he could have died in peace, or unknowingly, not in pain. But now, given the situation, Michael wasn't going to show him any mercy. So being the absolute cowards that they were, everybody else in the house just listened in on this. They left Michael and Seath in the bathroom alone, all while they went into the kitchen and into the living room and started cleaning up, getting rid of any evidence of the struggle, Seath's blood, and just listening in on what was going on. Eventually, during this, they heard more gunshots. That was followed by then Michael yelling and swearing. And even after Seath's body had given up at this point, he was no longer alive, he was no longer conscious, the rage inside Michael would not stop. And with cases like this, where more than one person is involved, my biggest question is always, did it not scare you to see what that other person was capable of? Did it not worry you that one day Michael might not like you anymore and that you might be next? But apparently nobody had that thought entering their mind. But as if the murder wasn't enough and terrifying enough, the lengths that they all went to cover up the crime was insane. So insane that I genuinely wonder if they could have gotten away with it had Kyle not freaked out and told his mom. Because disposing of Seath's body, it was not a simple task. There would be multiple steps involving everyone. Everyone had to pitch in on this. And it started with Michael and Justin putting Seath's body in a sleeping bag. Then they moved that body and sleeping bag into the fire pit in the backyard. Then, shortly after doing that, Michael and Amber went to sleep, which I guess they figured that they had done their part, but how either one of them could sleep after all of this is beyond me. I think you have to be like a true psychopath or sociopath to make that happen. But Kyle, her half-brother, and Seath's former best friend just sat there by the fire for hours, making sure the fire never went out, that it just burned everything. And if you don't already know, your average backyard bonfire isn't going to reach the same temperatures as a crematorium. Sure, it'll damage the body, it'll burn the body, but it's not going to completely incinerate it and get rid of it. Not like a burn chamber, like in a crematorium. So the next morning, the same morning that Seath's mom reported him missing, the group now had to get together to get rid of his remains, his charred remains. So they put Seath's charred remains into multiple paint buckets that they had just found lying around the property. Then, after filling these buckets, a few of them took his remains to a nearby quarry in Ocala, Florida. Now, apparently this quarry was a heavily wooded area, and it wasn't easily accessible by car. You had to park, a good bit away, then walk the rest of the way in. So I guess it seemed like the perfect place to dump a body, or body parts, I should say. And all of it happened so quickly. It seemed like everything had gone according to plan. But then Amber and Kyle were crying to their mom, clearly feeling some type of guilt. The fact that Kyle ended up being the reason they all got caught too, it kind of just goes to show how quickly that guilt started eating them alive. He spilled almost immediately. And again, had he not, would they have gotten away with this? So like I said earlier, almost everyone was immediately arrested. Everyone aside from Michael. As everybody else was being hauled off to the police station and being arrested, Michael was MIA. And the really interesting thing about this case is that pretty much all of the interrogation footage is out there and available, which that's something you don't see super often. Altogether, it's hours and hours and hours long, which I can't go over every little thing that every person said, otherwise we would be here until next year, but there are some highlights. I do want to take the time to go over some of these interviews, starting with Amber, because she may not have been the ringleader or the one to come up with this perfect murder plot, but she was the common denominator between everybody involved. She was the reason Michael even knew who Seath was in the first place. And what's crazy to me is that even after Kyle confessed to everything, Amber tried to play dumb. She tried to play victim. She described her texting Seath as being a natural thing, not something that was part of the plan. She said she just really wanted to talk to him. She really wanted to work things out, just maybe thinking, if I say it enough, they'll believe me. So then Amber starts saying this next part, and just as a side note, in all of these interviews, they will sometimes refer to Justin by his nickname, Roach. Just letting you know ahead of time. So take a listen.
So you and Charlie come back to the house.
We were sitting on the couch with
Where
Kyle.
was Seath? Oh, I'm sorry. Where was Kyle and Mike when you came back to the house?
Kyle was in the living room.
Okay.
Mike was off in his room like he always is.
Okay.
He never comes out.
So he had no idea you went to see Seath or that you came back from seeing Seath that you're aware of?
I didn't tell him.
Okay. And Kyle's in the living room. What's Kyle doing?
Kyle just sits there and watches TV like he always is.
Okay, so he's just watching TV in the living room. Mike's in the bedroom. Okay, and then what happens? Seath comes to the house?
Knocked on the door and Charlie answered it. And she was like, well, what do you want? And he was like, I just need to talk to Amber. Can I come in? She let him in. He sits in the chair. Me and her are sitting by each other on the couch. And out of nowhere, Kyle just gets up and hits him.
Where was Kyle sitting when Seath came in the house?
There's a couch, like, the kitchen is whenever you first walk in the house.
Okay.
And then it's the living room. Their couch was up against this wall.
Okay.
And then here's another couch. And then the chair was right here. So the couch and the chair is here.
Uh-huh.
Seath was here. And Kyle was like on this end. Kyle just got up out of nowhere.
What did he say? Did he say anything to Seath?
No. Like, I didn't know that if he... Like, I didn't think anything was going to happen. I mean, because I never knew Kyle would just get out of nowhere and hit somebody like that.
What did Kyle hit him with?
I don't know what he grabbed.
Do you know where he grabbed it from?
It was on the floor.
Okay.
And, like, as soon as he got up and, like, he went towards Seath and hit him, I looked at Charlie. I was like, run. We ran to her room, went in her bathroom and shut the door.
Okay.
And then we heard a door flew open, and then we just
Did you hear Kyle say anything to Seath?
Kyle just said, now get the F out of my house.
Okay.
That's...
So there was no argument before that?
No.
Nothing like that?
No. It was just got up.
Right now?
He hit him, like, one time that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walked away and said, get the F out of my house.
What did Seath do after Kyle hit him?
He got up. And me and Charlie took off to her room and locked her. Like, she didn't lock our bathroom, but we slammed the door.
What, did you just stand up from the chair? Did you stand up and walk out the door? Or?
He just jumped up.
Okay.
And by then, me and Charlie took off to her
Okay.
room. We shut the bathroom door. And we heard another door just fly open. And we just heard gunshot after gunshot after gunshot. And after maybe like 5 or 6 times of hearing it, it got quiet. And then you hear Kyle go, what did you just do? And then Mike went in the room and was like, if you say one word of what I did, I will have 2 more bodies to
Went
get rid
into
of.
what room? With you and Charlie?
He just walks in the room and was like, if you say anything or even come out of this room, there's just going to be 2 extra bodies to get rid of. So me and Charlie were pretty much stuck in her room the whole time.
Okay. Did you hear Michael say anything to Seath?
No, because whenever I was out there, he didn't.
Michael wasn't out there when you were out there.
He was just in his room, and whenever me and Charlie...
How long was it before when you ran from the living room after Kyle hit Seath and you ran into there? How long was it before you heard shots?
Not even a minute.
How do you think Michael knew Seath was out there?
He probably heard him talking.
Okay. So it's one of them things where it's not that far apart.
Yeah, the house is
The
very
house is-
small.
He would know
It is
Seth's
small.
voice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, really, I could have called it. Sure, Kyle had a bit of, side beef with Seath, but really the main reason anyone had a problem with him was because of Amber. Yet when push came to shove and law enforcement got involved, Amber pretty much threw everybody else besides herself and Charlie under the bus. Even her own brother, which, Talk about having no loyalty to the people who just brutally murdered somebody for your sake, and loyalty where your brother chose your side after the breakup.
Did you know what had happened?
No, I didn't want to think about it. I didn't know if he got him or anything. I was just sitting there and I didn't want to go out there and check.
Okay.
And just Mike came in the room and told us not to come out. And then I guess like after Mike did whatever, Kyle came in the room and he was like, everything's fine, Amber. He was like, you're not going to see anything, I promise.
Okay, so Kyle told you to stay in the room too?
Kyle didn't want me to go out there to see anything.
How long was it after you heard the gunshots until, I know Mike comes in pretty much right away?
Right after.
Okay, and then how long was it before Kyle comes in and says?
Maybe like 10, 20 minutes.
10, 20 minutes later he comes in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So did you guys stay in there all night?
Yeah, we didn't come out of the room. The
Okay.
most we did was out.
What did you hear while you were in there? I mean, seeing
We just
things.
heard a whole bunch of stomping and like just something dropping and that stuff and just like yelling because Mike was yelling about something.
What was Mike yelling about?
Mike was like, that's what you effing get. You deserve everything you get, and just going on about it.
Do you think he was talking to Seth in hindsight now, or was he talking to Kyle?
I think he was talking to Seth because Kyle wasn't saying anything.
Okay. Then what happened? I mean, do you guys go to sleep?
Me and Charlie stayed in her room
Okay.
and we just laid there and we were just talking about how scared we were. She was like, should I go out there? And I was like, don't, because what if Mike does actually do something to you?
Okay. So when did you guys finally come out of the room?
The next morning.
Okay, about what time?
We didn't wake up till maybe 11, 12 o'clock.
Okay. And what did you do when you came out?
We just looked around and there was nothing around.
Was anything different?
Oh, it just smelled like pure bleach in the house. That's it.
So that was Amber's story, right? At first, Charlie and Amber's stories actually kind of aligned too. And I think for a second, it made the investigators kind of like scratch their heads a little bit, being like, could they really be telling the truth in all of this? Were they actually sort of victims?
Okay. And tell me what happened after that. When you woke up 11, did you see, smell, hear, touch anything?
Like, I didn't really see or hear anything, like, out of the ordinary. I mean, Mike, like I said, my nose has been stopped up, so I can't really smell anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike came into the room and he said, I swear if you guys open your mouth about anything about last night, I'm going to come after you guys.
So he came into your room. Is that when you woke up, when he came
Like,
into your
I
room?
woke up and, like, I was going, like, I went to the bathroom and stuff, and I guess he realized that I was up,
Mhm.
and then that's when he came in.
Okay, so can you say that he came back in, I guess he threatened you again? He threatened you not to say anything? Is that what it was? Okay.
Now, the longer that Charlie talked and the more in-depth the questions from the investigators got, it started to seem like maybe she and Amber had agreed on saying certain things, but forgot to get together on very important and key details. You can only agree to go along with a certain story for so long, right? Or worst case scenario, one of your buddies will come up with a story that completely contradicts your own.
You okay? What's that on your hand?
That and that.
Yeah, what does that mean?
That's the day that I got married. And that's my husband's name.
A tattoo or actually?
That's
Like-
tattoo. You want to try to scrub it off?
Oh, no, I was just wondering because it just looks kind of funny. Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Everything that you have told me today is the truth,
Yeah.
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You swear to that?
Yeah. Right hand? That's
Everything that you have told me today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
You're telling me today, you put your hand out, that you had no involvement in this crime.
No, I have not.
Okay. All right. And I'm just asking you that for a reason. Because if you had, this is your opportunity now to
No,
come
I
forth and say,
didn't.
hey, listen, just like you had the opportunity, you see where I'm getting at? Like you had the opportunity to begin with when you talked to the deputies, and you've already told me the reason why you didn't tell them the truth.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Okay. Well, now you're not afraid.
I still am.
Okay. Well,
'Cause
you
we
are.
don't know where he is.
But we're working on that right now. Okay. And I'm going to assure you your safety until we locate him. Okay. But now that you have the
I know a couple
opportunity.
other people that he has threatened,
Okay. That's
and
fine.
they're not here.
Okay, that's fine. We're working on getting other people in here also. Okay? Understand, this is why I came back in here. To make sure that everything that you're telling me is the truth.
Yeah.
If there's anything else that you need to tell me, this is your opportunity now to say, hey, listen, I forgot something. I need to tell you something. Because an opportunity really only knocks once.
Yeah.
Okay?
I told you that he has let like every one of us hold his gun and mess with his gun.
That's fine.
So I know
That's
my
fine.
prints are on it.
But we're talking about Sunday night, Monday morning, that everything that you documented on that paper for me
That's the truth.
is all the truth.
Yes, sir.
Is there going to be anyone that comes back and contradicts your statement?
Shouldn't be.
Okay?
I mean, me and Amber were completely shook up. We didn't know what to do. I wanted to call the police so bad, but like.
Did you have your cell phone with you in the room that night?
Yeah. I wanted to call the police so bad.
Did you
but
call anybody?
No, I texted my friend Chris and said, I miss you so much. I just need someone to talk to.
Okay, and that's on your phone?
That's on my phone, but I never got a text back or anything. So I was
Okay.
like,
You understand, we also have a text. If
Yeah.
you're able to text somebody, you can also text the sheriff's office. You know that, right? It's called 911 text.
I forgot about that. Every time I call the jail, I forgot about that. It's like 352, 351, and then 9111. Right?
Something like that. I don't know exactly, but you can text if you're afraid. I'm just wondering if,
I wish I would have, because me and her sat in that room so scared that he was just going to turn around and get us.
okay. Did she have any involvement in it?
No, she was with me the whole time.
Okay. All right. We'll sit tight for just a little bit longer, okay? All right.
So the detectives gave Charlie every opportunity to come clean. And to me, maybe I'm biased, I don't know, it's always so obvious when detectives ask people these things during an interrogation. They obviously already know the real answer. They're just waiting to see if the person will be truthful or if they're going to just continue lying through their teeth. So everyone was being interviewed that day, except for Michael, because remember, he still hadn't been found. And with all four of these people talking, there's going to be a slip up in the story eventually. And that's exactly what happened here. Amber and Charlie both made it seem like, aside from Michael, Kyle was the second worst and scariest one out of the group. Plus, he had been the one to confess to everything to Tracy and to the responding officers.
We were all talking about it. I told him I didn't want to do it or whatever. And he was like, come on.
Was he talking about killing? Was he talking about killing Seth?
Pretty much, because he was like, man, because he's like, all you gotta do is find him, get him way down here and everything like that. And he didn't want Amber to call him off of the phone or text him. He didn't want nothing, have her or Charlie to have nothing to do with it. Well, Amber decided and she agreed to it. And I don't know, I went along with it or whatever. But I didn't think he was gonna do it.
So what did Mike tell Amber to do?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I was on the side of the house. But I come back and she's talking about meeting him up over at Beverly Hills Estates, whatever, and I'm walking him back down to the house. Oh my God, man.
Take a deep breath. You're doing really well. It's about time.
Sorry.
It's okay.
And then Mike was all hyped up and everything, man. He was like, listen, I want to do this.
I want to do what?
He's like, I want to go on a killing spree tonight, man. And I was like, yeah, I really don't want nothing to do with it. And he turned to everybody. He was like, man, I want to. And I'm like,
What did he explain as a killing spree?
Like he wanted, like I said, he wanted 8 bodies by the end of the week. And I mean, I really hated Seth. And there was time, because my ex-girlfriend, I found him in the bed with my ex-girlfriend, and I really didn't like that, and I loved her. And but I really didn't want to go out and kill the kid. It wasn't my intention. And he all right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mike was talking about it. He's like, listen, he's like, I'll do it. And believe it or not, Amber wanted it done. Amber don't want nothing to do with him. Amber wanted him dead and gone. He deserved it. He really did.
So there was the talk about you wanted him dead and Mike agreed to do it for you?
This was a while back, but this was in the same day, and I wanted him dead, but I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want nothing to happen over at Charlie's house. I said, you can do it on your own, basically.
How long ago did that conversation take place, before Sunday?
Probably after that fight over in my front yard, in the front of my yard, a couple of days after that.
So you're talking about Friday?
No, this was like like a month or so before this.
So a month or so before this, you and Amber and Mike are talking about killing Seth.
No.
Okay.
No. I wanted him dead, but I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want nothing to be a part of it. I didn't want nothing.
And Mike said he would do it.
But Mike said he would do it.
So you talked to Mike about it.
He kept on saying, man, I'll take the blame for everything. I'll do it. I'll do everything. I'll take the blame. If the cops ask you if anything, I'll take the blame. I have nothing to lose. And I was like, I still don't want nothing a part of it. And now we're going back on the day that I got off work.
Back on Sunday.
You know, we're going back on that day now.
Okay.
And he's like, all right. I told him, all right, it's whatever, man. I
So he says, I feel like going on a killing spree.
And I told him, it's whatever. And Amber agreed to it. Everybody was agreeing to it.
So did Soto agree?
Huh?
Soto? Roach?
Everybody agreed.
He
like
agreed?
I said, everybody agreed.
Amber agreed?
Mm-hmm. And
Charlie agreed?
Mm-hmm.
Mike said he would do it, and you agreed. So there's 5 people.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So there you have it. Every single one of them agreed and knew what was going to happen to Seth that night. Amber knew, Charlie knew, this whole story of the girls hiding in the bathroom scared out of their minds while the men took care of the business, it was total BS. They knew the entire time that by the end of the night, Seth was going to be dead.
So what did you guys agree to do? What was the plan?
Well, I walked onto the side of the house. Amber wanted to talk Mike wanted to talk to Amber or whatever. And then all of a sudden, Amber got on the phone with Seth. He's like, it's better to call than text because they can trace back text. And I was like, and I guess Amber agreed to it or whatever.
Whose phone did Amber use to call?
I think she used her phone.
Okay. So she called Seth.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh.
And we walk up there to Bowie Hills Estate. Well, this was later on, like a few hours later. Everything was agreed, everything.
So wait a second now. Hold on, because you got to take me through it slow, because I have to be able to explain it to you. So you guys are all there at the house. You decide that tonight's the night Seth dies. Basically? Okay. And the deal was that Mike would be the one that kills him? Or were you supposed to kill him and Mike was going to take the blame?
Mike was supposed to do everything.
Mike's supposed to do everything. And Amber's just supposed to lure him to the house?
Basically.
Okay. What you say basically, what was Amber's role? What was she supposed to do?
Just to get him to the house. That was it. Just to get him to the house.
So Amber calls him.
And Amber calls.
Okay.
And then.
Then what happens?
All of a sudden, Seth goes, okay, I'm gonna leave Brittany. I don't even know who Brittany is, but he's like, I'm gonna leave Brittany and I'm walking by myself. I'm almost halfway from Bowie Hills Estates. Well, Charlie and Amber, they walk up there to go meet him.
Okay.
And Mike's sitting here talking to me about it. He's like, what's wrong, man? I was like, man, I don't want to do this. I'm nervous, man. I don't want nothing to do with this. And he's like, he don't deserve to be here. He hit your sister. Think about everything he's done. Threatened to burn your house, everything. It just kind of kept on getting to me. And I kept on thinking about everything. I kept on getting angry. And then it was supposed to be planned that when he come in the house, Roach was supposed to be sitting on the couch. He was supposed to sit next to him. And Roach had a stick. I had a stick. And Mike was supposed to shoot him. Well, when Seth sat down, Mike was, the key word or whatever was supposed to be, Roach was supposed to say, fuck it, and hit him with the stick. And we were supposed to come out the room, and I was gonna hit him. I was gonna hit him, and he wanted him knocked out. Mike wanted him knocked out, but it didn't work that way. Nothing went as planned. Nothing. Seth come in. Me and Mike were in the room.
You and Mike were in Mike's room?
Yeah, we were in his room.
Okay.
And supposedly Amber and Charlie told said that nobody was at the house. And when they found Roach in the living room on the couch, he kind of, I guess they told me Seth kind of backed up and was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then I guess they were Charlie was making some lie. And I thought you were supposed to text before you come here or something like that. And I guess Amber and Roach was messing around with ice cubes or something like that in the kitchen. And Mike's like, man, I can't do this. It's got to be done now. He's like, wait, he's sitting in the love seat. He's like, it's got to be done now.
What love seat?
It's not like a love seat. It's
like a chair and a half.
The chair like that was in
Okay.
the other room.
Okay. So Seth's sitting in that chair. Who's in the living room when he's sitting there?
Nobody was in the living room.
Where was Roach?
Roach, Amber, and Charlie. They were in the kitchen.
Okay.
And then my
Because this house ain't like the East Wing and West Wing.
no,
You can
it's
pretty
just
much
one.
see it.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's just a
a
double wide
big
trailer.
room.
It's just a double wide trailer.
Okay.
And Mike's like, man, you know what? It's not going. It's got to be done. Are you ready? I said, man, I don't know. Give me a second to think about this. He said, dude, think about it, man. He puts his hand on my shoulder. He's like, think about it. Do it. Look at everything he's done to you. He told you he was going to fuck your girl, and he was doing it. And it just kept on getting to me. And I was like, whatever. And Mike opened the door. I come out. I hit him over the stick, the head.
Where was Seth when you hit him?
He was in the chair.
Okay.
And I hit him over the head with the stick, and it broke 3 times on him.
What was the stick?
It was like I said,
Frame of a door.
basically what it looked like. It nothing to hurt him, and
How are you gonna knock him out?
Roach was supposed to hit him with a bigger stick.
So Soto had a bigger stick.
Yeah.
When you say Roach, you're talking about Justin Soto. The one that's here.
That's what
Okay.
I really know him by.
Roach. Okay.
And that's what really was supposed to do it. And Mike was like, I want him in the bathroom, and I want him knocked out, and I want him to wake up and know that I'm gonna kill him. That's what it was. But it didn't happen like that. I hit him, and he stood up. And when I broke it over his head 3 times, he stood up, and then Roach come in, and then he hit him with his stick, and then he was trying to go through the kitchen, and Mike shot him in the back twice with a gun.
Okay.
And then he was still trying to go out the front door, and Mike just kept on shooting him. I kept on telling Mike, I was like, stop it, let him go. And he just kept on shooting him. And he goes out the house, and Roach grabs him like this and set on the ground and has him choked. And I don't know what he did to his knee, but he kind of messed up his knee, and Roach rolled over.
Who messed up his name?
Roach,
Okay.
Soto, and he rolled over, and Mike come up and shot him in the head, and that's when it was over.
So he was shot outside the house.
In the house and outside.
Okay.
So last but not least, we have Justin, aka Roach. And I'm not completely sure what Justin's criminal background looks like, but it sure seems like he isn't very fond of the police. Because at first he tries to play dumb. He acts clueless, kind of like the girls had done, not even knowing that Kyle had already, dished out all of the damning information that the investigators wanted to hear. So really, he was kind of just wasting time, yet he didn't know that.
You hanging out? What were you guys doing that night?
I sit there and we watch TV, talk. I don't really do anything. I mean, I just hang out. I play basketball sometimes.
Do you know why you're here? You don't know?
I really
Did
don't.
anybody explain? Tell me how you ended up here.
I woke up this morning to Charlie waking me up, and there was an officer right there, and I'm here now.
Okay, so you just got in a car and you didn't ask any questions like, what do you want? Why am I here? Nothing? You didn't ask anything? Oh, come on. You're too smart for that.
I'm not worried about it. I didn't do nothing wrong. I
Well,
mean, I was
exactly.
just coming over here to see what the hell's going on. Because I woke
Yeah,
up.
but you even said it yourself, okay? You're nervous about places like this, okay? So there's no way you're going to sit there and tell me that you got into a police car, okay, and ask no questions as to why you're getting into a police car after being woken up, okay? So let's,
They said an incident happened.
okay. With who?
I guess freaking something about some kid that I don't even know who the hell he is, and
Yeah, you do. Who is he?
his name's Seath or something like that. And supposedly, I guess he got shot or whatever.
Okay.
That's all I know. Like the girls, I guess they went to go meet up with him or something, and
What girls?
Charlie and the other one,
So Charlie went in to meet up with you?
they went to go meet up with him somewhere, and
When?
I don't even remember. I think it was 2 days ago or something. I don't know. All I know is I left after that. I went to my neighborhood to try to, cause I'm getting a tree job. I'm doing a tree job, and I went to go find out what's going on in my tree job and stuff like that. So like, I didn't get back till late or anything.
Justin. Okay. Like I told you before, I've been doing this a long time.
Mhm.
Okay. And on top of that, you know, with age comes wisdom. Okay.
Mhm.
And knowledge. Okay. So, you know, 20-year-old boy can't lie to me. Or a 20-year-old young man can't
Mhm.
lie to me. Okay? So I'm asking you to please be truthful with me. I know that you're trying to, you know, I don't know what it is you're being careful about, okay? And it's okay to be careful, okay? But the truth is what it is, okay? And that's what I need from you.
That's pretty much what it is. I don't know the kid.
Okay.
I know he's a little white boy, and him and one of the girls used to date or whatever, and
Which girl?
the Amber girl.
Okay.
And that's all I know about the kid.
Well, you just told me more than you told me a few minutes ago. Okay, so you know Seath is a little white boy. You know that he used to go out with a girl named Amber.
Mhm.
How do you know Amber?
As a friend,
How did you meet her?
through her brother, Kyle, the other dude that's
Okay.
here.
Okay. All right. So is Kyle the other one that lives with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then now I know you know more than you're saying because, you know,
He just moved in too.
I know, but Kyle likes to talk, doesn't he?
I haven't chilled with the kid in like,
You've what?
I haven't chilled with or hung out with him in a little while until we moved in and started living there.
Well, now you're making me think things a little differently, okay?
Mhm.
Now you're making me think that maybe you had some involvement in all of this. Did you?
No, ma'am.
Did you have any involvement in any of this?
No, ma'am.
No? Where'd you get the scratches from on your legs?
Vines walking through the woods.
Because they were very, very fresh scratches. When did you get those?
Yesterday, I was walking through the woods yesterday.
Yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
What woods were you walking through?
In my old neighborhood, where I was going to talk to the dude about the tree job.
Okay. What neighborhood is that?
It doesn't have a name. It's behind a church, a big church. That's like 15 minutes from where I live at.
Okay.
So everything's
Let me
close
see
by.
the marks on your legs. Okay. So you know, I work in the woods too, you know,
Mhm.
and I don't get scratched up like that.
Well, I mean, I had.
So you were either
They're like,
running
They have like.
or you were trudging through the darkness.
No, they have like little. What are those called? Thorns or whatever on them.
Okay.
And they're up there on my leg.
Let me
and
see your other leg. Yeah, you're pretty scratched up. That's not from a walk through the woods.
Sure it is.
No.
So like I said, he wasn't being very forthcoming. And it's not like he spun the story a little bit like Amber and Charlie. He was just straight up denying that anything had happened. He didn't know who Seath was. He didn't know who had been shot. He didn't know anything. Nothing. Zip, zero, zilch. And the interviewer clearly was not in the mood for it. And you can pretty much tell from the beginning that she doesn't believe a word that he says. Then, of course, there's the fact that Kyle had already said everything that needed to be said. Really, everybody else's interviews were just a test to see if they would be honest, and they all pretty much failed.
Well, you know, that's funny because you forgot to mention that to me. About what you did yesterday, remember?
I told you what I did yesterday.
Yeah, but you forgot to mention to me that you saw Mike yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, you'd really think that people who are capable of murder would be a little more capable of solid stories and alibis. But honestly, they very rarely ever are.
You didn't hang out with them?
No.
You didn't want to know what they were doing?
I've been gone all day. Like,
you said no, like no, I didn't want to hang out with them. You live with them.
I mean, I don't know. They're not the type of people I hang out with, like, all the time. Like, I just do my own thing. I was gone all day pretty much. And I didn't get back till like midnight, like almost 1 o'clock last night.
So at what point did you get the scratches yesterday? Because you told me what you did yesterday, but you never told me about how you got the scratches. That was not included in what you told me you did yesterday.
Oh, well,
just
all right.
like Mike was not
I'll tell you.
included.
These woods that, like, there's these woods right in my neighborhood. Like, I used to do retarded backyard wrestling shit and all that. And we had a mattress out there, and I walked through there to, like, see if there was anything, like, old stuff back there. Because we used to hang out in the woods and backyard wrestle, and, yeah.
Did you
Just
wrestle by
reminiscing.
yourself?
Yeah, I was by myself doing that. Like, I was
So
just
you were
reminiscing.
tossing yourself all over the grass
No.
and the woods and
Like,
stuff?
I used to do backyard wrestling in there.
Uh-huh.
I was just walking, like, in the woods to see, like, if everything was, like, still there, and pretty much just reminiscing
Justin,
about
you're
it.
killing me. You're killing me. Okay.
So like I said, none of these interrogations really mattered as far as details and information goes. Kyle had already given them everything that they needed. So they were all taken into custody and they were officially charged with first-degree murder. Now, while the interviews were going on, the detectives had secured warrants from multiple places, kind of like the final piece of the puzzle to bring justice to each and every one of them. And the detectives were focused on 3 main areas: Charlie's house, the quarry where Seath's remains allegedly were, and Michael's bedroom at his grandmother's house. Even though Michael was technically living at Charlie's, he still had a bedroom back at his grandma's house, and the investigators had been pretty spot on when they decided to search there too, because very quickly they found the murder weapon, or at least pieces of it, because there was an empty gun box as well as an empty .22 caliber gun cartridge. However, no actual gun. Still, though, the evidence that they found at his grandma's house proved that he was in possession of a weapon. And at Charlie's house, there was even more damning evidence. Each room the detectives searched in, they found more and more ammunition for a .22 caliber gun. Some rooms just had the casings, but some rooms still had live rounds. And at the quarry, just like Kyle had promised, there they found Seath's charred remains. I mean, these idiots had tried their hardest to get rid of any evidence, but they didn't do a very good job. For one, there were also distinct footprints leading right to the body of water where Kyle said that the remains would be. Then, on the mossy, rock wall leading to the water, there were these drag marks or scrape marks in the moss just going downward. It looked like something had been lowered down into the water, almost like it was scraping the side of the rock, not just thrown in or tossed in. So when they followed those markings into the water, there they found a lid to a 5-gallon paint bucket. And not long after that, they found multiple paint buckets. They were all wrapped in wires and cables tied to a cinder block, almost like how you hear when people tie cinder blocks to a body or a duffel bag to sink evidence, that kind of thought process. And sure enough, Seath's remains were inside the buckets. Now, given that his remains were burned and then dispersed into multiple buckets, formally identifying them was pretty tricky. Extensive DNA testing was done, though, and from what I can tell, the results were a little bit different than what we're currently used to hearing. Court documents from the Supreme Court in Florida noted, quote, DNA testing established that it was 63,000 times more likely that the remains police found were from the biological child of Jackson's parents than a randomly chosen Caucasian individual from the U.S. population. So they were kind of identified as Seath's, but not with 100% certainty. It seems like they were identified to be as close to Seath as it was going to be possible to do, right? Now, during all of this, Michael was still on the run. However, he didn't run very far or in a very smart place. And just for a little reminder for the sake of the timelines, Seath was killed on Sunday. He was reported missing by his family on Monday. By Tuesday morning, 4 of the 5 people involved in his murder were arrested. And by Tuesday afternoon, Michael was found and arrested too. And Michael wasn't found at his grandma's or his friend's house, nothing like that. He was at his ex-girlfriend Kristen Williams' house. Now, whether or not he was just hiding out there or had actively been cheating on Amber this entire time, it's kind of open for interpretation. It wasn't something at the top of the investigators' to-do list to solve, but didn't really look good, right? And regardless, I don't think I need to point out how ironic it is that Michael orchestrated the murder of a guy who had once dated his girlfriend, yet simultaneously still had a somewhat relationship with his ex, right? Which, if there's one thing we know these men will do, it's have the audacity. So by Tuesday night, everyone who was involved with Seath's murder was arrested and in jail, right where they should be. Michael was also immediately taken into the interrogation room, but whether or not he was going to be cooperative, that was still up in the air. I mean, he had to have known that everybody else had already been arrested, right? So at that point, the jig was up. But pretty much as soon as he got into that interrogation room, he was begging and pleading for a lawyer, and also for his dad. Which, was that technically and legally the smart choice? Sure, I'll give him that. But it also is just always funny to me how these people always act so big, so bad, so scary until they're caught. Then they're crying, saying, I want my daddy, I want my lawyer. And Michael is no different.
Having his rights in mind, do you wish to talk to, it says us here, but I'm saying me. Do you wish to talk to me now?
I'd like to give him one phone call, because I need to get a hold of somebody. I need to call my lawyer.
You want to talk to a lawyer? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, I'll talk to you, but I want to call my dad. I want to call my dad.
Hold on a second. You just said that you want to talk to a lawyer. Did you want to talk to a lawyer, or do you want to talk to me? I want to clarify that first.
I'm going to talk to a lawyer.
Okay.
Even though Michael was being very tight-lipped from the start to the investigators, it turned out that he had been running his mouth to a lot of people, many people, many people before being arrested. Once again, not the smartest criminal that I've ever heard of. First of all, he told his ex-girlfriend, Kristen. He told her plain and simple that he had, quote, shot a kid. Then he told Kristen's brother, James Williams Jr., quote, that he shot a boy 8 times, busted the boy's kneecaps when he was in the bathtub, burned him, and put him in paint cans.
Mike told you that he needed a place to stay, basically got in a fight with a guy. The guy cousin was looking for him. He needed a place to lay low. And you say on the 19th, which would be the next day, Tuesday, that he ended up telling you, was he bragging about it?
Yeah, a lot. And then just tonight, actually.
So he was bragging and he told you that he had shot a guy 8 times. He burnt the guy's body. You say he shot him 8 times with a 22?
Yeah.
Then, as if all of that wasn't already bad enough, he told James William Jr.'s girlfriend, a woman named Crystal Anderson, also what he had done. And for whatever reason, he had chosen to really confide in her more than anybody. He went to her and confided in her a lot of the grisly details.
All Monday night?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I was in the kitchen cooking. I don't know what they talked about when they were out there because I wasn't out there. And then after I got done cooking and I got Jim up to go to work and he left and Mike's like, can I talk to you? And I was like, yeah, what do you need to talk to me about? He's like, I need to talk to you about something. I was like, okay. I was like, are you in any kind of trouble or anything? And he was like, yeah. I was like, well, what did you do now? And he wouldn't answer me there for a minute. And I said, well, were you breaking in houses again? I'm like, are you in that kind of trouble? And he held his head down and he started to cry. And he's like, no, it's worse than that. I'm like, what do you mean it's worse than that? And he said that he lived with a family that was like his own family. And he said that the little girl that lives there, that's 15 years old, said that her boyfriend had raped her. And I was like, oh my God, are you for real? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, I killed him. I said, what? I said, what did you do? And then he said that him and some other people, I don't remember their names, but one of them had hit him with a stick.
So Mike told you that the 15-year-old girl was raped.
Right.
And that he killed the guy who raped her.
Right. He said that another guy, it's the girl's brother, but I don't remember his name.
Okay. The victim girl.
Right. Said that it was her brother was beating him with some kind of stick thing. And that he shot him 8 times. And I was like, what? You did what? And he's like, yeah, I shot him like 4 times in the house, and then I shot him like 3 times outside. And he said, then I drug him back in the house and I put him in the bathtub.
Okay, so I'm trying to catch what you say. You shot him 4 times in the house?
Yes.
And then 3 times?
In the yard. Because he was running out as Mike was shooting him.
So after the 3 times you shot him in the yard, what happened next?
He drug him in the house.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike placed the victim in the bathroom. In the bathtub, and he started beating him.
Who started beating?
Mike started beating the guy he shot.
Okay.
And then he said that he beat him some more, and he shot him in the face. And he beat him some more, and he shot him again. And then he said,
where did you shot him again?
In the face.
So you shot him in the face twice?
Yes.
Okay.
While he was in the bathroom, in the bathtub.
Okay.
And then he said that later on that night that they had built a fire,
Mm-hmm.
and that they had burnt that dude that they had killed. And said that whenever, or no, I'm sorry, he wrapped him in his sleeping bag.
Wrapped him in a sleeping bag before he burned him?
Yeah, and then he burned him in the sleeping bag. And then whenever he got his body burnt and everything, his skull wasn't all the way burnt. And he said he took his skull and pulled his teeth out one by one with a pair of pliers.
Now notice he didn't mention Amber being his girlfriend at all in all of this, because he was of course staying with his ex-girlfriend at her house. I mean, I just can't. And basically he was just saying way too much to these people who owed him absolutely no type of loyalty. And that was proven by them talking with the police, sharing everything. So it didn't matter that he wasn't being forthcoming to the police. He had already confessed to other people, and everyone, including people who were there the night of the murder, already gave their explanation for things. They had multiple witnesses who claimed that he told them exactly what happened. They had Kyle who confessed to exactly what had happened. They found Seath's body. They found evidence of him owning a gun at his grandma's house. I mean, get real. So Michael was also charged with first-degree murder. And after Michael, there was actually one final arrest. 37-year-old James Haven was also arrested and charged with accessory after the fact to first-degree murder, because James was Amber and Kyle's former stepdad. The day that Seath's body was disposed of, Kyle had called him and somehow convinced him to help him with getting rid of Seath's body. Which again is why I gotta give credit where credit is due to Tracy, because it seems like she is the only one in the family who had her head screwed on right and was like, no, I'm not gonna cover this up and I'm not gonna help you, I'm gonna call the police. Now back to Michael really quick. You would have thought that blabbing to pretty much everyone in Michael's ex's family, who then later went directly to the cops, probably would have been some kind of a learning lesson for him. But even after he was arrested, he still continued to run his mouth. Again, not very smart for somebody who is denying everything and pleading not guilty. Apparently, he told one of his cellmates that he had killed a kid who sexually assaulted his girlfriend, and also that he had burned his face in the process of trying to get rid of the body. Another time, he was bragging to a separate inmate about how there were only 2 witnesses who actually saw him shoot and kill Seath. And what's crazy about this specific incident is that a corrections officer overheard the entire thing. Now, I know I'm kind of on my soapbox right now about how ignorant Michael is, but I also gotta just add in the fact that he had a teardrop tattoo when he eventually went to court for Seath's murder. Which, pretty insane to have the most common prison tattoo that represents killing someone at your murder trial when you're trying to convince everyone that you're innocent. But I digress, just my opinion. So of the 6 people involved in Seath's murder, there were 3 people who either were a bit smarter than the others or just had way more capable attorneys. Because Charlie, Justin, and James all pleaded guilty to the charges against them. And from the very beginning, prosecutors had made it clear that they were going to push for the death penalty for everybody involved. And that threat clearly affected those 3. But it ended up being a really smart decision for Charlie, because even though she was given life in prison, she only served 9 years before being released in 2020. As for Justin, he was handed a life in prison sentence as well, and he still remains there to this day. James was given up to 30 years in prison. But as for the 3 people who were arguably the most involved and most to blame for Seath's murder, they all decided to go to trial. And for time's sake, I won't bore you with every little detail, but I will say this. I'm not a legal expert, but I do have to wonder what Kyle was being told to do by his lawyers. Because I would imagine that since he was the one who actually went to the police and confessed, he might have been able to secure some type of deal. Maybe he was offered one and just didn't take it though, I don't know. But either way, he went to trial, and he was ultimately found guilty of first-degree murder. And because of that, he was sentenced to death. His legal team later tried to appeal this sentence due to his age during the crimes, but the sentence was upheld. Amber was also found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. And last but not least, we have Michael, the ringleader. Now, as we know, he ran his mouth to literally anyone who was willing to listen, yet anytime it came down to being in court, he basically shouted from the rooftops that he was innocent. Plenty of people testified that he was a great guy too, somebody who just got tripped up because his early childhood years weren't the easiest. His parents had separated, he had bad ADHD. I mean, you've heard it all before, all the excuses, right? But needless to say, it wasn't convincing enough, and the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder. And prior to his sentencing, he still tried to convince the judge that he was innocent. He said, quote, "Your Honor, I don't want to die. Obviously, nobody wants to. I mean, but I'm not going to ask you for a life sentence either. I'm not. Not for something I know I didn't do, and I don't want to die. I really don't. I was 18 years old then." But no matter how much he claimed he was innocent, or how many times he said he didn't want to die, Michael was still sentenced to death. His team tried to appeal the sentence, but the Supreme Court just sentenced him to death again. And as I'm sure you're already aware, people can be on death row for decades. So I highly doubt that we will be seeing Michael or Kyle executed anytime soon. But the positive thing is that in the end, justice was served. Really, aside from Charlie and James, they're all going to have to sit in prison and think about what they did to Seath until their very last breath. Seath was only 15 years old. A kid still trying to figure out who he was. Yeah, he made mistakes like all teenagers do, but he didn't deserve what happened to him. Nobody does. What makes this case so disturbing too isn't just the level of violence, but it's how easily it all unfolded. How a handful of teenagers could come together and commit something so unspeakable, then just went to sleep like nothing ever happened. Seath Jackson should still be here today. But instead, his story stands as a chilling reminder of how quickly things can spiral when dangerous people go unchecked, and when nobody speaks up before it's too late. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I know that this case is a lot to take in, and I really want to hear your thoughts. So drop me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss any future videos, and share this video with a friend. Introduce them to the channel if they're into true crime, and let's continue to make sure that Seath's voice and story is heard. All right, guys, thanks again, and I will see you next time. Until then, stay safe. Bye.